Remember when I told you Bombermonth was going to be back? See, I told you it was gonna be back. Welcome back to Bombermonth. I don't know why I'm using this as an intro. Woohoo. Welcome back to Bombermonth. Welcome back to Bombermonth. A month dedicated to all things Bomberman. Welcome back to Bombermonth. God, that was stupid. I'm working on a better intro, I swear. But anyway, hello everybody. Arcades, gotta love them. They used to rule the world of gaming with titles from Konami, Taito, Capcom, Namco, and more. We managed to get wall-punching horde games that eat up all your quarters. Classics like Pac-Man, Street Fighter 2, Puzzle Bubble, TMNT Turtles in Time, Donkey Kong, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, and more. Not to say there weren't any bad ones, because there were, but most of the time we had gold. Even if arcade places nowadays are pretty much ways to get stuff with tickets, I still enjoy the novelty of arcade games. What if I told you, however, that Bomberman had not one, not two, not four, but 3 attempts at an arcade game? And 2 of those attempts weren't even by Hudson Soft themselves. You'd either say, duh, no shit, or wait, really? I'm going to assume a lot of you said the former, but enough talk, let's have all our quarters gobbled, starting out with Dino Blade, while it was known in Europe, / Atomic Punk, while it was known in the US, / screw it, I'm gonna use the Japanese name Bomberman. We have 2 modes as per usual, single player and multiplayer. The latter I'll talk about later, but for now, let's just focus on single player. In the year 2091, basically the future, blowing up bricks, monsters, and even each other is now considered an actual sport for some reason. But anyway, White Bomber and King Bomber remain on top, dominating opponents in the tournament. However, King Bomber inexplicably turns to the dark side, bringing terror upon all mankind with troops of monsters. It is up to White Bomber and Red, if you're doing co-op, to put a stop to this. It's honestly weird how they went back to being robots despite the first game setting up that they became human at the end of that game. But maybe it's because this one is developed by IREM. I guess that also explains why the second Bomber is red instead of the usual black. But I had no idea who IREM is until I looked them up. But apparently they made Kung Fu Master, both the arcade and NES versions. I've never even heard or played either version, so yeah. The game itself is pretty much Bomberman, but with the controls that are a little bit more loose than I wanted, but get the job done. The game does something that I don't think I've seen others do, to this extent at least. In this game, enemies can be found in columns. Sometimes. It feels like by placing that many enemies together, Irem wanted to brag about the arcade being far more powerful than the consoles, but it's not really something I'll miss. You can place bombs like usual and enhance said bombs with power-ups like Flame Up, Bomb Up, Speed Up, Techno Bomb, Fire Match. Okay, it's not a power-up, but it's still weird, even for Bomberman. A difference between regions is that the international version has a significant amount more of Robo Bomber in the game. Atomic Punk, now with 90% more Robo Bomber. That unfortunately means that the Japanese version gets a slight edge for having more enemy variety. The graphics are really similar to the ones in Bomberman on TurboGrafx 16, with slight modifications given to the graphics. Honestly, they really did enough to make it look like its own fame, but during the conversion they lost a tiny bit of the charm that was there. The music is pretty goddamn weird, I ain't gonna lie. It's sort of funky, but it also has a very not Bomberman feeling to it. It's also pretty forgettable. Just like Super Bomberman, the bosses are way bigger than you. And just like Super Bomberman, the challenge is not so much the bosses itself, but rather the timing of when and where to put the bombs. With that being said though, they don't really put up much of a fight and are the easiest parts of the game. Now, I did mention co-op earlier. You and your buddy can play together on the story mode or just be a dick to each other and cost someone your life. Another difference between the region is the number of players able to play in story mode. In the Japanese version it goes up to 2, but in the international version it goes up to 4. Personally, 4 is a little too chaotic, like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but there's the option of if you really feel like it. Multiplayer is back with a small story about there being a competition and may the best bomber win or whatever, but it's really fun. Even with the limited power-ups in mind, it's still a blast. So there you go, that was Bomberman's first arcade entry, and outside of the novelty of it being the first arcade game, there's really not much reason to play. But if you don't care about that, then I wholeheartedly recommend. A year later came Bomberman World, not to be confused with the PS1 game of the same name. We have the same modes as before, so just like last time, let's talk about the story in single player mode. After the events of Bomberman the arcade game where King Bomber gets his ass handed to him by White Bomber, King Bomber tried to turn to good but ended back to the dark side, unleashing robot monsters around the world. This time, he also took over the United Nations headquarters. Man, the security there must have really been slacking off. And it's off to the Bomber Brothers to travel around the world and save the day. This time you have a world map and a total of 6 locations to go to. Japan, Africa, South America, North Pole. Last time I remember, the North Pole is a country, or a continent for that matter. Eurasia, ever heard of it? And North America. This time, the game has a benefit of having variety, which is a necessity in 2D Bomberman games. Although in this one, you no longer get blown away by a confetti bomb. Aw man. The enemies also have different behaviors, which I admit is something I thought the first one lacked in. A new power-up allows you to freeze time, and a sock. Again, I know it's technically not a power-up, but it's still bizarre. Bosses are back and they are just as easy. The graphics are pretty much identical to the previous one, except it's more colorful, and honestly that works to this game's benefit. The music is significantly better than the first game, but the repeat of some makes it clear they should have had more. One thing I don't think I've had enough appreciation for are the design of the animations. These are the most bizarre and outlandish designs I've ever seen, and it works. Fun fact, in the ending where King Bomber's ass is kicked, we can see him making sushi with him asking, Toho? Okay. For those of you who might not have known, Toho is the fatty part of the tuna's belly. But also, White Bomber, eat with chopsticks, not your hand. Co-op is here, and just like before, in the Japanese version it goes up to 2, but in the international version it goes up to 4. But another returning mode is multiplayer, and yeah, it's really fun, go figures. Although I love how if you win, you get the human babe. There's just something about robots fighting for a human chick. Another fun fact is that in Japan, this game is called Bomberman World, but in Europe it's New Dino Blaster, although it can be toggled with a dip switch, and in America it's known as New Atomic Punk, although originally it was just going to be Atomic Punk 2, as seen in the promotional material. But that does it for the developers of Dino City. Yeah, they made that too.
I learned that from Jontron.
Honestly, they did a really good job giving Bomberman the arcade treatment without slacking off, no less. After IRM gave back Bomberman, it took Hudson Soft 5 years to decide to make another arcade game, this time for the Neo Geo. As some of you will remember, I used to do a Puzzle Bobble retrospective, and that started out on the Neo Geo, so I'm no stranger to the Neo Geo, that's for sure. Once again, this game contains 2 modes, and once again, I'm gonna start with single player mode. The story this time is that White Bomber and his pals are getting ready for a tournament when Bagura shows up, kidnaps most of White Bomber's friends and put them into cages. So it's up to White Bomber and Black, if you're doing co-op, to save the day. Already we can notice similarities between this and Super Bomberman 4, although Neo Bomberman has more glossy graphics than the latter. I prefer the Super Bomberman 4 graphics. The game features a smoother controls than the previous 2 arcade games. You get new power-ups like Kick and Throw, which allow you to pick up and throw with the latter, and kick bombs away with the former. If there's anything I dislike right away is the fact that they don't give you enough time, 1:59 to be exact. Time's ticking, don't screw it up. It also means you'll pretty much hear the time running out music all the time, and it's annoying every time. Sometimes a cage will be there, so you have to break it with the bomb, but not blow up your friend, which can be a headache enduring, because they can be in the way of the bombs. Bosses are here and they are still pretty easy. In between worlds you get these still pictures that pretty much continue the stories. These are neat, even though I wish they were animated. Some of them might even be my favorite.
Thanks a lot, bye.
The music here is a lot more ambient based, and because of that they aren't really as catchy as they could have been, and that's a shame. Co-op is once again present, but this time it's only up to 2 players, which doesn't bother me a whole lot, but I know it will bother some. Battle mode is here, and it's also only 2 player, but it's fun. So how would I rank all of them? Number 3 will go to Neo Bomberman. There's just a few too many cracks for me to consider it the best one. Number 2 will go to Bomberman. I haven't quite got the hang of it yet. And number 1 is Bomberman World, my personal favorite out of them all. But who knows, I might be wrong according to you. Let me know how you would have ranked them, and let me know why. Also, I know some of you are gonna mention that I forgot Bomber Girl, but I'm saving that for next time. I'll see you next time as the Bombermonth mayhem continues.